Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Lonnie.
Oh. You're a good girl.
Hi. My pleasure. Cool. Sorry.
Good. Hey. Hey. Right? Mm-hmm.
So, well, cool. Really? Huh? Oh, Hey. So. Of course. Yeah. Me too.
I'll stick around to see the new neighbor. Curiosity about the new tenant was getting the better of you. Your mind was already swirling with too many thoughts about what they might be like. Really? Uh-huh. I can't leave until I find out what they at least look like. Cove nodded at that. You noticed that he seemed much happier about his task now that he wasn't going to be waiting alone. Cove put his hands on your shoulders, gripping you solidly, but not enough to hurt. His eyes fixated on you just as firmly. He was serious. Stella, you're my true ally in this world. That got a fair amount of chuckles out of you. He grinned, the stoicism fading into amusement.
Thank you.
I knew you'd stay here for me. I can't help myself. Yeah? Well, good then. I don't know what I would do without you. And then he let you go. Cove stepped over to his front porch steps, lazily taking a seat and leaning back on his arms. Our watch begins. Nodding in agreement, you joined Cove on the front porch steps. You both sat there in a comfortable familiarity as you settled in for the waiting game on the new tenants. The neighborhood was quiet, and you sighed contentedly, closing your eyes and feeling the light breeze. Eventually, you both perked up at the sound of a car. A taxi followed the noise, turning onto your feet. Cove's eyebrows raised at that sight, and he sat up straight on the stoop.
Oh?
This has to be them, right? The only people who come out here live there. It has to be. Now that they were here, you couldn't help but feel just a bit curious. You wondered what kind of person would be living in the neighborhood for the summer. The taxi pulled to a stop as you expected in front of the now empty condo. It was on the same side of the street as your house, a few buildings further up. Without getting to his feet, Cove tried leaning and tilting his head to get a view of the passenger door as it opened. The single occupant exited the cab. Huh? You could feel what Cove was in that moment. After the last renters, this new visitor was definitely not exactly what you'd expected. It was a young man, had to be close to your own age. He was dressed fully in an eclectic black, white, and gray outfit. Even his side-swooping hair matched the scheme. The only other pop of color was from something that couldn't easily be fashioned into submission, a pair of dark brown eyes, which you caught when he looked over at his audience. Hello folks, who might you be? We're the neighbors. The smile already prominent on his face curled further. It was cocky, but you didn't get the impression it meant something at first. You and Cove shared a familiar look with one another. You wildered even further. The color coordinated man left it there. however, and with a firm click he shut the door of his ride. Then he turned his back to you to retrieve a large, unsurprisingly a black suitcase out of the trunk. Continuing on with his own business, he strolled forward and lightly tapped on the driver's side window with his knuckles, asking for them to roll it down. When it opened, he leaned down and rested his arms on the edge. You assumed he was thanking the driver for getting him there, considering he slipped them a tip during the brief chat. They shook hands, and then he pushed himself up and away from the taxi with both arms, giving the driver room to leave. The taxi pulled away, rolling carefully down the road and out of sight around the corner. The new renter had officially arrived. He left the suitcase on the ground, out of the way of the street, and sauntered over your way with the confidence of someone who had been invited to join. Cole finally stood up to greet this person. You followed suit.
Excellent.
I'm Baxter Ward. It's excellent to meet you, neighbors. You were standing on the side he was approaching from. When Baxter got close enough, he offered his hand to you first. You shook it. Baxter gripped your hand firmly to give a satisfying shake. Welcome to Sunset Bird, Baxter. I'm Stella. Hey Stella, I'm quite keen on getting to know you better this summer. We could be good friends. From your other side, Cove made a sarcastically amused scoff. And you are? He lifted his hand out to Cove next. Cove instead crossed his arms to express his rejection of that idea, still eyeing Baxter carefully. I'm Cove. Baxter's whole demeanor lit up for unknown reasons. His eyes shone as he studied Cove a moment.
Really?
Now wait, is that a nickname or your real name? It's just my name. Cole spoke mildly, having given that explanation many times in the past, but it clearly charmed Baxter all the same. He tossed his head to one side with a laugh. Your parents knew exactly what they were doing. I can't imagine a more fitting name or a face I'm seeing, Cove. That's gorgeous.
What?
It's really not. That's a lot considering you're talking to a stranger, Baxter.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. It wasn't intended to mean more than it did. I like your name, but you don't have to mind that. Cove gave a slight nod in recognition of Baxter's words. I'm patently against stepping on anyone's toes. He chuckled to himself. It seemed like there was some extra meaning hidden there in his words, and you noticed that Cove raised an eyebrow, picking up on that too. Baxter stood up straighter, striking a slight pose with the position of his feet. He began to speak, but suddenly stopped and closed his mouth. He began absorbed in his own thoughts, tapping a finger to the side of his chin as he stared at you. You shot Cove a confused glance. He shrugged in response. After a few moments, Baxter had the same smile curl from before. He removed the finger from his face and used it to point directly at you.
Hmm?
We've met before.
What?
What? When? Baxter continued to smile widely, his head tilted slightly to the side as he studied your visage. It's embarrassing, but I haven't remembered that part yet. He laughed cordially while Cove stared at him in disbelief. Baxter chuckled further, mirth growing at what must have been a very amusing situation in his mind. I'm getting there, don't tell me. I know you want to, but don't. It'll come to me. He continued looking you up and down, and back over his chin while he racked his brain for answers. And then recognition appeared in his eyes. With a snap of his fingers, he announced his revelation as though he had forgotten his own birthday. The cypress at the summer soiree, of course. Turning away from you, Baxter began rambling to himself about the details. That had to have been before any regionals. So, at the time, I was about 14 years old. That makes it 5 years ago from now, right? Cole's mouth fell open.
Seriously?
Are you kidding me? Is he serious? Did you really meet this guy at the country club party 5 years ago? You were shocked. You certainly had. You'd never forgotten the mystery boy. You weren't sure what to say or what to do. He'd appeared in front of you so unexpectedly then, and he'd done it again. Cole's eyes started between you and Baxter again. The instigator of this discussion lightly gestured with his hands in response. It's good not to forget a face. You see, my parents are members of the Cypress. They happened to be passing through on a trip across different states when they heard about the event.
To be honest,
Funnily enough, the entire reason they joined was for the connections they could make with other members there. Looks like that perk has finally hit for me too. Originally, I thought it was only any good since I could occasionally dance there. Baxter suddenly stopped and stood up straighter. He grinned. Dance. Oh yes, that's what I was going to say. I'm a ballroom dancer, hence the phrasing earlier. Oh, I don't know much about dancing, but that's pretty cool. It's not hard once you get the basics down. Cove didn't look convinced at all. Baxter took that as a cue to keep talking. Well, he grinned in a way that was rapidly becoming familiar to you. If either of you are ever looking for a partner, I'm available. Cole frowned at the overt forwardness. Thanks. I'll pass, I think. I'll take you up on that offer sometime. I look forward to that then. After that, there was a lull in conversation, and Cove attempted to fill it. What made you decide on Sunset Bird? Oh yes, well, my parents rented a condo, so I had a place to stay while I'm off for the semester from college and not living in the dorms. There was a playful glint in Baxter's eyes as he continued.
Honestly.
Ideally, they wanted to send me somewhere else, somewhere that wasn't too exciting, but lucky for me, they picked the wrong street, considering the two of you lived here. Cope was practically reeling over how Baxter found a way to fit comments like that into every single topic thus far. Why do you keep doing that? You don't know us, but you talk like you already do. Ko spoke, firm yet genuinely confused, and Baxter smiled cautiously. I don't feel the need to keep words of praise to myself, and when I say something, I mean it. Plus,
See?
what's the point of spending my off semester alone? The best part of being somewhere new is getting to interact with new people. Am I honestly the first person who's acknowledged you're attractive and intriguing people? True, you're hidden away in a tiny tourist trap, but still. Baxter crossed his arms. After studying your faces a few more seconds, he decided to continue. Am I only trying to score a hookup or get a romantic feeling? Fling started by saying those things. No, that isn't the point of speaking well of others. I was raised better than that. So, would I fuss if that's what my words led to? Also no. I'm flexible. Not a surprise. I can back off with the lines if you don't like the attention, but I would like to be friends if we can. Cole wasn't sure how to respond. He glanced at you, and he continued to look at your face when he spoke. Thanks for answering. I don't think I'm interested in that. Maybe not the friend thing, but the other part. I'm finding it pretty entertaining. Baxter laughed at that. Glad we're working this out. Glad we're working things out. Shifting his weight to his other foot, Baxter tried to move forward. So, since you were both already out here, did my arrival interrupt anything? Definitely not. You smiled and silently agreed. If Cove wasn't going to say anything, neither were you. Baxter didn't need to know how much of today was spent waiting to see who was moving in. Baxter watched you both carefully for a hint of what was going on, but decided not to pry any further. Well, if either of you are free, I'd be thrilled to hang out this summer, but we can save the scheduled talk for later. I should get my things inside. He gave a small nod of the head and flashed you both a dazzling smile. Goodbye for today. Cole simply waved a goodbye. Bye. Baxter then turned on his heels and strolled back to his suitcase, picking it up and bringing it in to his condo. You and Cole were silent as Baxter unlocked the door and disappeared inside the house. With him completely out of scene, Cole let out a long breath.
Well,
I don't know how I'm gonna explain that guy to my dad. You burst into a fit of laughter, trying to imagine the conversation. At least the job is done. We saw the new neighbor, and now we can go meet up with Terry and Miranda. Yeah, we should get along. You gave Baxter's condo one last glance over your shoulder. You're looking forward to seeing more of him. Or you thought he was charming. You really weren't sure when, but at some point, Baxter won you over. You were curious to get to know him better. Laughing quietly, you wondered how Baxter would fit in with the rest of the neighborhood. Turning your attention back to Cove, you pushed all thoughts of Baxter aside. You both started making your way towards town. A little while later, you and Cove reached the main street in town. All of a sudden, you stopped walking. What's wrong? I think I heard my phone. You dug your cell phone out and looked at it with a satisfied grin. There was a new message.
Hey, buddies.
No way.
No way.
Huh?
Thank you.
The current conversation was well and truly over, so Cove took a chance to speak. This has been on my mind the whole time, but there was never a good chance to mention it before. What is it? There's a new person renting a condo in our neighborhood. Really? From one tale of an unusual character to another, Cove spoke of Baxter Ward as if he was a local legend. His name is Baxter. He is in college, though doesn't look like he's much older than us. Maybe Miranda's age. He's not gonna be what you expect, no matter how much you try to guess. The description put Terry on the edge of a non-existent seat, and she was about to fall off it somehow.
What?
A new man in town, who's our age. Cove Holden has been holding out on us. As usual, I won't guess. You tell me what he's like. He's a charmer. I can't wait to see him again. Intriguing. He added on to your initial description with a couple of thoughts of his own. More explanation was required to make any sense of it.
I mean...
Baxter is bold. He says whatever he wants, and he dresses dramatically. Everything on him is black and white, even his hair. Huh? Cove had been correct. That kind of man had not been considered in the realm of possibilities for Terry or Miranda. But I don't care that he has the style or that he is not shy. What I don't get is the way he acts so impressed by strangers who have done nothing. He said he wanted to hang out with us, me and Stella, this summer and all this other stuff, and that was the very first time we'd met. I have no idea why he cares or why it is so easy for him to say that to people he knows nothing about. So you got his number?
No!
No. Cove's eyes squinted, and his nostrils squeezed inward from the incredulous scrunch that suggestion had given him. Considering the picture that had been painted, he couldn't understand why Terry would imagine anything like that had happened. Oh, that's a good idea. Then do it. And you should too, Cove. You don't meet a social butterfly like that every day. The black and white color scheme proves he's a rare specimen.
Ooh.
This Baxter is flapping around town, coming to appreciate our two good buds, Cove and Stella, right? Like flower buds, and he's a butterfly. Terry, that pun is such a stretch. Well, he sounds like my kind of guy, and we could always use more friends. No, it's very possible to have as many friends as you need. This was escalating. The more fired up Terry got, the more Cove and Miranda wanted to shield themselves from the embers. Oh, come on, the more the merrier. The group of four was evenly split between the sociable and the shy. That line was drawn clearly with this discussion. No longer moving forward, Terry stood there with her hands on her hips.
I'm on it.
I'm gonna meet Baxter right now. Cove completely stalled, except for his hips, which sputtered a response. What about getting food? I know the way. You can all go ahead. I'll be back before the food hits the table. You'll see it. Terry's light chuckles contrasted massively with a hefty sigh from Cove. You're actually going to go to a stranger's house and ask his number? That's the plan? Yeah. Why do you gotta be like this? If I wasn't like this, me and you never would have been friends ourselves, and I probably wouldn't have been friends with Randy either. I don't live in this town. I can't miss an opportunity to connect. Otherwise, that means leaving it up to the chance or fate or Cove's ability to have relationship progress on his own. I don't have all ear for that. He'll be gone before then.
We're cool.
Not to insult you for going slow, Cove. You're good the way you are. Baxter can be a butterfly and you can be a snail. There was affection in Terry's extended metaphor, but Cove still frowned at the almost certainly correct assessment of how his connection with Baxter was going to develop.
No.
I don't like snails. You chuckled as Cole pouted. He hadn't completely grown up. Order me the General Soul's chicken. I'll get his number. Inspired by the name of her meal, or perhaps her meal was inspired by the sudden mission, Terry gave a military salute before flipping around. Miranda and Cole simply watched in disbelief. Hold on, I'll go with you. Stella? Cove gave a halting yell, but he had no intention of stopping you. He just had more foresight than you in that instance. What are we supposed to order for you then? Oh, you slowed your pace way down, and glanced over your shoulder. You called out, beef and broccoli.
All right.
Okay. He let you go, and you found when you looked ahead that Terry had stopped in her tracks. She waited for you after you announced your intention of joining.
Thanks.
I knew you were a bud. The trip back wasn't long. You'd barely left your neighborhood before the announcement of this change of plans, but there was no time to lose. Together, you sped down the sidewalk, around the bend, and in only a few minutes, you'd returned to the ever-familiar sloped street. Terry's feet took her halfway down the road, smack dab between your house and Cove's. It was a force of habit. Which is his? She asked the question so naturally you almost missed realizing that she wouldn't have known where to even go if you hadn't decided to come after her. Almost. But you wanted to see Baxter. It worked out for both of you. You pointed a finger towards one of the rectangular houses back up higher on the hill that she passed right by. That's it. Oh, glad you're here. Let's go. She hoofed it in reverse, upwards to what had been the Forbidden Fortress. Though the former danger that haunted those halls had been released, and instead it was claimed by a proper gentleman. Terry fearlessly rang the doorbell. She'd never understood the true terror of Donald's, but one might think there'd be some hesitation in the action. After all, she was still approaching the home of someone so unfamiliar to her, she hadn't known which house it was. But they would have thought wrong. Terry remained fully confident in the decision. You stood at her side with hardly more justification to doing this. The door opened, and there was the man you'd met 30 minutes ago. Baxter had said goodbye for today when he left then. What an overestimation of how long it'd be before you'd once again show him your face. Oh, he must have believed what he'd said, because seeing you raised his brow and put a questioning edge in his exclamation. Why were you back? After the initial recognition, though, his features all smoothed out into his default expression, lidded eyes and a curved smile.
My pleasure.
Stella, it's a pleasure to see you again. And you? Baxter's head angled squarely at Terry. It was at a playful tilt. You weren't there before. Still keeping his face turned to Terry, his deep brown eyes shifted towards you. Stella must be popular to have such a rotating collection of company. I expected as much. Baxter blinked, and it was as if he'd never taken focus from Terry for even a second. His attention was on her so fixedly. He held out a hand decorated with sleek black rings to her, then gave a cordial introduction.
Nice to see you.
I'm Baxter Ward. How nice to meet you. The offered hand received a sprightly slap, a slight high five in place of a shake. I'm Terry, a friend of your neighbor's. His interest was piqued. Baxter far less subtly looked between the individuals making a house call, trying to gauge the motivation for it. With no hint to go off of, he settled for asking directly.
How
I
are
see.
you?
And what can I do for you, my neighbor and friend of my neighbor's? Terry was gonna come either way, but I thought I'd check in. Is the condo nice? It's lovely. His voice was distinctly sweet and soft. The tone might have been born from a simple appreciation of the condo, or it might have been because you cared to ask, and the quality of lodging was irrelevant to how happy he was to answer. Stella here and Cove not here talked about you moving in for the summer. It sounded cool to me. I decided to see you and your black and white hair myself. The reason people were unexpectedly at his doorstep had been revealed. Baxter's response to such an intrusion was pleased. He instinctively brushed a few strands of dyed hair, smiling all the while. Well, thank you.
Uh-huh.
You sounded cool, and you are. Let's swap numbers. Really? This town truly is neighborly. I'm not from this place. Terry's reason for seeing him was far more tenuous than Baxter assumed. She didn't live in the neighborhood, or the one past next, or anywhere in Sunsetburg. She laughed heartily over it. Baxter snickered much more wryly. Neither of them had a care in the world. Then it's this social circle from wherever they come that's so friendly. Even better. Does that mean I can have your number?
Certainly.
That would be excellent.
All right.
Good. Terry pulled out her cracked Excel. Baxter did the same thing at the same time. His phone case was black and white. No surprise there. They hovered closer to each other, bent over the screens and tapping away. After a mistype or two, numbers were exchanged. Thank you. Welcome. Would it be alright if I had your number? And I'll give you mine. His head remained bowed, but his gaze lifted towards you. His cheeks went up as well in a sparkling smile. Of course, I'd love that. Baxter waited for you to get your own phone out, and he repeated his number. You got it down, then gave yours in return. The contact name on his list was Stella across street, with an exclamation point.
Perfect.
He slid his phone into his back pocket.
Honestly.
And I must admit, I was not expecting this vacation to go as well as it has. Even with a generous estimation of my sociability, I imagined I'd need a week or more to find someone to exchange numbers with. Instead, I have 2 new friends the very instant I arrived. Oh, Baxter, this isn't even all. Since you've seen me, Stella, and Cove, it's only a matter of time before you meet Miranda too. And there's still Liz, obviously. Maybe even Lee will make an appearance. The news of yet more strangers being invited into Baxter's vacation had no visible impact on him. He replied, contented and calm. I look forward to all of that. As you should. Now we need to make haste. There are other matters we must attend to. Lunch awaits. That was one way to put it. Baxter's formal tone seemed to be rubbing off on Terry.
See you.
Ah. Then I won't keep you. I hope to see you again soon, though. Please feel free to text or call anytime. Have a good day. Same. Yeah, see you later. Come on, Stella. Like 2 shots, you went off of the road. Baxter didn't move an inch from the entrance as you left. Neither you or Terry spoke on the race to the restaurant. The clock was ticking. Every second longer you took could be another droop in degrees for the warmth of your meal. You stopped to catch your breath only when you were under the shaded awning of the Chinese restaurant. Terry wiped her fully exposed forehead with her palm.
Finally.
Making friends works up an appetite. Yep, good thing we're about to eat. You entered the building together leisurely, pretending to be normal people who arrived for lunch in a totally reasonable way. Terry explained the hostess up front that a table should already be prepared for her and you with 2 others. One who's short and in shorts, cute freckled, big purple eyes, a lacy top. She's shy and probably didn't say much, but the hostess politely stopped Terry's babbling with a raise of a hand before she even began to describe Cove. That was plenty to get the idea across. You were directed towards the center of the dining area. Miranda and Cove were there, speaking quietly. In front of them was nothing more than 4 cups of water and a plate of 3 spring rolls. The dish was supposed to have 4, as sure as Baxter loved black and white. You knew it was Cove who ate the one that was missing. Even if food technically ended up in Cove's stomach before the 2 of you returned, an appetizer had to be cheating. Terry meant the main course, and it was not there. You could still take it as a win. She certainly did. Hey, we made it.
Hey!
Terry, Stella, hi. Crease lingering on Cole's face showed he'd been worrying about the results of the unexpected stop until the moment you both appeared. But since you'd strolled up so victoriously, he was reassured enough to already joke about it. You barely made it. You know, we ordered a while ago, and this appetizer is already here. Ah, close, but making it is making it. Did my good friends get what I requested? The sudden primeness of Terry's speech was lost on Miranda. She didn't understand that a bit of Baxter had been brought to the restaurant with the 2 of you. Yeah, I got it. General Tso's kitchen for you and beef and broccoli for Stella.
Thank you.
Aw, thanks. One of the empty seats was finally filled as Terry plopped down, satisfied after a job well done. You took the last remaining chair. So, did you actually see him and get his number? We did. Cove glanced your way, his wavy brows raised in surprise. We was clearly the word that was on his mind. You continued with comfortable ease. I I got his number too.
Huh.
Wow. The group had settled into its usual rhythm. When your proper meals arrived a few minutes later, you ate and talked, and not once did the topic return to the element of the unknown Baxter Ward, but he remained stuck in the corner of your mind. After many seasons in this sleepy town, you had expectations of what the summer of 2016 would look like. It had been all too easy to imagine. Sure, you'd graduated high school, your life wasn't going to be the same anymore, but it was too soon for that to wrap the existence you'd had for over a decade. At least you thought so. And yet there was Baxter, who was something you'd not counted in a single one of your vacation plans. You couldn't have until barely an hour ago. Now his number was on your phone. A new world, one you had no grasp on, was already poking its way into your old routine, and it had come in the form of black and white ballroom dancer. You were lucky. The final days of familiar comfort had come, but the first sight beyond that was a charming young man asking you to spend time together. The rest of the afternoon and evening passed by a blink of an eye. When night fell, it was time to head home, and you parted ways with Miranda and Terry. You and Cove reached your neighborhood without event. It was late enough that your out-of-the-way street was dark and silent. You were walking tiredly after such a long day. You yawned, stretching your arms high over your head. It was taking a lot of mental focus to keep up and walk alongside Cove. As you did so, you peered at his face out of the corner of your eyes. You wondered why he felt so distant to you. It was out of character. For a while, Cove silently stared ahead and left you alone with your own thoughts. I was surprised when you did hear his voice all of a sudden. He still wouldn't look at you. It feels weird coming back to the neighborhood and trying to get into things like they're the same. And they're not. They've changed. They're still changing. Your mouth felt uncomfortably dry all of a sudden. It was true. The things that kept the people you knew together were starting to disappear. Each person's had to make their own priorities and their own path now that it wasn't set for them. You thought about your own immediate future. You had been considering more and more, and ideas were starting to settle in your mind. You hoped to work full time. And that was the basics. For your career, you thought you'd start your own business, find a company to work at, work online, and that was all. And for that, you wanted to go to a different part of the state. It all be happening so soon. You'd started to prepare for what was coming. And you'd only spoken about this with your family. and those who you were close to, like Clove. Now you wondered what Cove had in mind. You'd heard him consider some things for his future, but it was never anything that would have counted as a real plan. Making it back home, you both stopped in the middle of the street. Cove sighed. Cove looked at the ground for a moment. His mouth trembled, trying to settle on the right words to say. So, are you still thinking about working and stuff in another part of California? Yeah, you remembered. Cove closed his eyes and nodded. While he composed his thoughts, he looked at you when he lifted his head. I decided on something. Well, kind of. He smiled slightly and rubbed his arm, and then his expression grew more serious. I'm not gonna decide on a school or a career, not this summer. I'm gonna stay here, at least in Sunset Bird. I'll probably move out of my dad's place. I'll keep working my job, keep doing my volunteer stuff and everything else.
I don't know.
Maybe I'll know what I want for myself by fall or next year, or maybe I'll never have a plan. I will continue on with whatever's happening. I'm not gonna crush myself trying to have everything figured out by a timeline that someone else has set. I just can't do it. His brow furrowed, and his voice and his tone was tense. It was clear how much expectations were weighing on him. I know that's not very exciting, but it's the best I can do right now. He laughed self-derisively, but with the way his face looked, you thought he actually wanted to cry. You looked at him deeply. Your plans sound very you. Nothing about his plan surprised you, honestly. You felt like you should have seen it coming, but regardlessly, you had to support him every step of the way. He exhaled, releasing some tension in his shoulders. Thanks for hearing me out on this. You knew him well enough to know that Cole wasn't feeling completely better about the way things were. No matter what's happening, I want you to know that you won't ever lose me. I won't really be gone. I'll still be there for you the best I can, whether it's long distance or whatever else. Cole's whole expression softened. His lips pulled into an affectionate smile.
It's okay.
Stella, you deserve to have everything you want in life. I want you to get everything you want in life. That flew out of your mouth immediately, but you meant every word. His mouth pulled into a delicate grin. Looking at you fondly, Cove took a step closer, and he placed a hand on your shoulder. The warmth of his proximity helped relax you. He spoke to you softly, wholeheartedly. He meant every word. Things are hard right now. It scares me, but it'll be okay. It'll be more than okay. Now that things are up to us, we can make our lives better than they ever were. You believed him. No matter how daunting the future could be, he was right. It would be okay. Deeply, you met Cove's gaze. You nodded. At that, his expression morphed into a look of careful confidence. Clearly, he was still struggling with the topic, and you wondered what else might be on his mind. This was a start, I think, but it's not over, is it? We'll have to keep talking about it going forward. Yeah. Cole softly reiterated his promise. It'll all be okay. We'll still always be there for each other. Is that good with you? It is. Cool. That's cool. I'll see you tomorrow, Stella. I'm already looking forward to it. Night. He pulled you into an unexpected hug. It knocked the breath out of you, yet couldn't have been a more reassuring feeling. You returned his embrace and stayed that way for as long as you could.
Good night.
Night. He finally let go, giving you another smile. Then Cole started walking away, but you remained there, frozen in the middle of the street. You watched him and wondered, how many more times will he be able to say that he'll see you tomorrow? You hoped for countless more times. Finally, you turned towards your own house. You vowed to yourself that you would make the most out of every moment you had this summer.